In this module, we're going to focus on how to communicate our entrepreneurial ideas to others. And pitching is less about performance and it's more about translation. The goal is to make ideas understandable, relevant, and actionable to different audiences. So, clear communication allows ideas to travel further and gain more support. Pitching is the act of translating an idea so others can understand its value. And this is not really limited to investor presentations. We pitch when we're speaking to clients, partners, yes, funders, but sometimes even employees and employers. So, anytime support, permission, or collaboration is wanted or needed, a pitch is happening. And ideas that are clearly communicated are more likely to move forward. And let's really reframe what a pitch is. A pitch is not about convincing someone against their actual interests. It's about helping another person understand what the idea is and why it matters. The goal is clarity rather than persuasion, and respecting the audience means being honest about the scope, the risks, and the limits, and a good pitch leaves room for thoughtful response rather than pressure. And again, this is about communicating to the right audience and understanding when perhaps it's not a good fit. That doesn't mean you need to try to sell something that is misaligned. Effective pitching begins with the understanding of the audience, and different audiences really evaluate ideas through different lenses. Investors, for example, may focus on risk and return. Clients may focus on usefulness, solving a problem, and fit. Funders, partners, and collaborators all bring different, distinct priorities to be aware of. The core idea usually stays the same, but the emphasis changes by audience. Problems are framed differently depending on who is listening. Value propositions highlight what matters most to that specific audience. Risk and credibility are addressed in audience-specific ways. So the desired next step should always be clarity and appropriateness. Another important aspect that is often overlooked is pitching usually unfolds over time rather than all at once. It often begins with a brief introduction or teaser. A short verbal pitch may follow that if interest is shown from there. Then a longer presentation happens only after an invitation for that information. And then follow-up and conversations are essential parts of the process after that. So an elevator pitch is a short, focused version of the idea. Of course, it is named elevator pitch because it's as if you have just enough time when you're in an elevator ride with someone to deliver this information. So it lasts only maybe 60 seconds, maybe 2 minutes max. I know that's longer than being in an actual elevator, but it clearly names a problem and who experiences it and explains why the problem matters. And finally, it ends with a clear next step or request. Short pitches are difficult because they require a lot of discipline. Saying less really forces you to prioritize, and weak assumptions really become more visible when that space is limited. So clarity in a short pitch requires a lot of rehearsal and a lot of refinement. Strong pitches really share common elements across all formats. First, they clearly identify a real problem to address. Then they speak to a specific audience rather than just everyone. Next, they offer a credible solution with evidence and strong reasoning. And finally, they are honest about any limitations and the scope. So, in this day and age, video and visual pitches are increasingly common. They're often used in things like crowdfunding platforms and overall in early outreach. These pitches are usually really short, and simplicity and clarity matter more than production value. The goal is understanding and not necessarily being perfect. It's important to remember that a pitch rarely ends with an immediate decision. Follow up is a normal and important part of the process, and also questions often signal interest rather than scrutiny or rejection. Feedback also provides valuable insight for improvement, so most pitches contribute to learning even when they do not result in an actual agreement. As we wrap up this module, remember that pitching in this course is about skill development. It's not about performance. The focus is on clarity and thoughtful communication. Students are really practicing how to translate ideas for others, and confidence and charisma aren't necessarily the primary criteria. They do help, but careful thinking matters more than that polish.